A couple of weeks ago, I did a poll asking my viewers whether they preferred a bowl with epoxy to fill holes or to leave it natural. The poll was rather split. This week's video, I'm taking a maple crotch and I'm putting epoxy where it goes, in the crotch. Again, let me know if you think I made the right decision. So here's the maple crotch piece. You can see where the two branches came out of the log. Better to see it from this view. You can see the branches coming out. I'll just mount a faceplate on this and then get it mounted up in the lathe. So I rough turned it because this wood was wet, and from here it will go into my kiln to dry. At first I thought I would just fill this one spot here on the side, but notice the crack just to the left of it. And pay attention to that because that'll become important a little bit later. This section of bark I ended up removing and putting epoxy in there as well. You do want to remove all the bark when you're using epoxy because otherwise those pieces of bark will break off and they will become floaters in your epoxy. If you remember this piece, this was going to be a candidate for epoxy because of this here, also this here, and maybe this here. So it's going to be epoxy. I have a customer that's requested it. So it's been in my kiln. It is dry now. It's down to about 12%. So the first thing I need to do is square up this tenon so that I can mount it, start getting it round, and then we'll remove this bark and put epoxy in it. So, I don't know if I've shown this before, but I have this tool here, which is for a dovetail. This tenon should be a dovetail, so it fits better in my jaws. So I'm going to go ahead and square this up. About 460 RPM, and it's turning pretty smoothly, so not that out of round. It's probably as much out of round due to this piece here missing as it is being actually geometrically out of round. Let's go ahead and at least get us a true edge. Always a good idea before you turn your lathe on to give her a spin by hand, because you saw there a minute ago I had this piece coming and hitting my tool rest. So a good idea to give that a check before you turn it on. So I'm touching here, not here, because this piece is going to be filled with epoxy. Obviously not here. I'll take a bit more off of there because I've got some room to give. I may get rid of this spot right here and the majority of this. There, now I've got a good rim, just a little bit there. Of course, that I'm not going to touch. I might keep going just to get rid of that because that's going to be a little odd. This one is a little more natural shaped. I can probably do something with it. Although, keeping in mind, I want to take the inside down far enough to expose this as well. So, let's just go a little further and see where we end up. Okay, I got rid of that spot there, so I'm good. That's as far down as I'm going to take the outside. It'll obviously have to be smoother, but that's as far as I'm going to take the rim on the outside. I'll continue to work on the bottom a bit and then come back, start working on the inside. If you remember earlier, I mentioned that crack. That crack got a bit worse, so I just ended up taking it off altogether. Just put a little pressure on it, and it was able to come right off. That opened it up to a larger area to apply epoxy. Once that was done, I formed it up with hot melt glue and shelf liner. The tuck tape actually isn't doing anything here other than holding down the loose edge of the shelf liner. I have 100 mils of epoxy mixed up here, and I have the green pigment. This is going to be a combination of green and gold as per the customer's request. So I formed it up with shelf liner, and I put tuck tape on it, although I should mention I put hot melt glue all along here, because tuck tape will not hold. It will not hold epoxy, but it does a great job at just attaching the loose ends. The hot melt glue, on the other hand, will do a good job at stopping any leaks. So I just use a tuck tape also to pull back these edges so that they wouldn't collapse in and be too narrow. So we're all set. I'm going to mix the epoxy up, and then we'll get ready to pour it. So I put 3 heaping, whatever this is, into 100 mils. I could only guess that's probably 10 mils maybe. So, but it's given me a nice dark green. I'm liking the color. So I'll go ahead now and mix up some gold, and then we'll pour the 2 in. So this is what I was hoping for. I have good color separation. You can see it's definitely green with gold swirls in it. What you don't want to have happen is pour 2 colors in and then it just be a indistinguishable mix of green and gold. But I do seem to have some good swirls there, so good color separation, so I'm quite pleased with that. So good news is 12 hours later we did not leak. So this is held good. You can see here where the hot melt glue was. It came down to there, but nothing leaked through. So that's great. And same thing with this piece. I'm not down at all. It's hard now. I could probably start taking the forms off. Just a little bit I had left over. It's hard. The other thing is I've gotten good color separation, in which I like. You got a couple options. I could just pour it in and leave the gold as thick stripes, so there'd be very distinct gold veining. Or I mixed it a little bit, so you get, it's still there, but it's a little more subtle. I like that better, but it's a matter of personal preference. But pleased with the way it turned out. This has been drying, not in a pressure pot. So now I have to mount it and finish turn it. The epoxy took a lot longer to dry. It dried in 3 or 4 days, but there was a little bit out here towards the edge that was soft. And I just let it sit for a week or so. I had some other projects on the go, and it's since hardened up well, and I don't think I'll have an issue. Now, I will tell you that it is turning round. That's not an issue, but it's out of balance. It's out of balance because I've got this big lump of epoxy on here. Now, it's bigger than it needs to be, so that sticks out further. Plus, epoxy is heavier than wood, so that density difference will make a difference when you go to spin it. So I'm turning I am turning 400 RPM, and that's 380, and that's as fast as I can go. Once I get that lump down, I'll probably be able to speed it up, but for now, that's as fast as I can go. So what I'm going to do, I can see the edge of the wood as it turns around here. I don't see the edge of the epoxy, but I do see the edge of the wood. So I'm just going to use my bowl gouge until I know that I'm cutting wood, and then I'll see where I am with the epoxy. Now I'm just sanding the outside. So in this, I'll finish the outside completely before moving to the inside. So I started with 80 grit and worked my way up to 600. Then applied some abrasive paste to take it up to 1,000, and then buffed it out even further after that. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I'm sanding now. It's on the outside. And I'm chasing my tail a little bit. I had a bit of tear out down at the base, which I got rid of. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not hardly noticeable, but it is noticeable. There's some lines running across this way. Anytime you see lines going in the direction of your work, that's either an uneven cut or uneven sand. In this case, it's chasing sanding. I probably made a bit of a mistake. Always do the outside first, leaving the inside as thick as possible. My inside was fairly thin and I did want to clean up some of this epoxy. Because I've got two pieces of epoxy here which are heavier than the wood, denser, and the wood is already thin out here at the rim, and it's a big rim, it's causing it to flex a bit. So whenever the wood flexes and you're sanding, well, when it flexes here, this is a heavy part, it's going to flex out. Well, then what happens is it comes back in. And when it comes back in, I'm missing this area here. So I'm not getting good sanding. So I'm getting marks on it that I'm chasing here to get rid of. Sometimes they're not a lot and it would not change the shape. So sometimes I end up just doing it by hand and going up and down just to get rid of those lines. Because if I can see them now, they'll be more obvious with the finish. And again, some people don't notice. They see these lines running this way. They think it's something in the wood. The wood lines are going this way. If there's something going this way, that's me putting those in. And because I know the difference, I want to get rid of them. I did do some spot sanding without the lathe spinning. You want to be careful that you don't overdo this. You don't want to get any flat spots. So you don't want to actually change the shape. But by this point, I had gone to a bit higher grit, so there wasn't much of a risk of actually changing the shape. And there's what I'm talking about, that line right there. That has nothing to do with the wood. That is me and my sanding. Scraping isn't going to remove it. It's very fine. Because it's bouncing a bit, scraping is going to be difficult. That has to be sanded out. It's really just a difference in smoothness. I mean, you can't feel it. So that has to be gotten rid of with the coarsest grit. And I'm actually at 80. There's no shame in starting low as you need. It's good pretty well. It is good everywhere else except right there. And if this grit won't remove it, there's no sense in moving on to a finer grit because that will not remove it. And you'll notice that it immediately follows the two epoxy areas. Again, it's flexing of the wood, it's bounce coming off those heavy areas that the sandpaper just isn't hitting that. I can just do this. Go back and forth across it like this with the grain, and that will help reduce it a fair bit. But before I move on, I have to get rid of that right there. Otherwise, that'll always be visible. Now here's that same spot I showed you earlier, and you can see that that line that was running in the direction of the bowl is now completely gone. The customer wanted a green and gold, and I really like the way this coloring showed up. It's a nice mix. The gold and green maintained a good color separation and a very nice look to the epoxy. So you can see the two spots, one on the right where the crack was with the piece removed. So that's my largest section of epoxy. And then the other one was the bark section within the crotch. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out very well, although I don't do a lot of epoxy and my preference is to leave a hole in the side of the bowl. I do think that with the crotch piece, the epoxy was a nice compliment, and hopefully the client will be very pleased with the way this turned out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think, whether you think the epoxy was the right choice or not, both just with the use of epoxy and also with the color.